Hey guys, it's me. Welcome to week 2. I am hoping to go over some things about this week and then some of the content that we were discussing in the readings and the videos that you may have seen already for week 2. I'm also going to cover some aspects of week 1 so that we can brush up because I know you guys are looking forward to your emotional intelligence paper later on. And so some of that's going to create the foundation as you go forward. So first I want to go through what's going to be available for you for this week 2, what to expect going in it. When you first get into your interpersonal processes page, it should look something like this. If you see this banner, that's a good place to start. If you scroll on down here you'll see some basic tutorial information, but also there's going to be a rundown of each of your assignments that are going to be due and also entailing how I'll be grading them so that you'll have exactly the knowledge you need to do them to expectations. I know all of you have your first discussion post under your belt, and so as we go forward, you'll see less videos and more text, and you'll see that the rubrics that are included in these links are going to be more specifically adhered to. Are you answering the questions? What's the quality of the insight that you're using? Are you including course material? And are you responding to each other with the same type of insight? I use that rubric pretty closely, so I would definitely review it. You have a process note that's due today, so I know most of you are either probably working on them or finishing them up, but this is where you'll find the basic overview of the layout of those. In case you are unsure, there's the 3 sections. For each process note, you're going to want to review your dyad group conversation and how that went and reflect deeply about how you felt going into it. Were you nervous? Did you make some assumptions that now that you're processing it afterwards, you can see where that might have gone astray? That's really your time to delve deeper, to explore your feelings about it, or just your thoughts and how your thoughts played a role in the conversations you had. You'll have the same kind of conversation about your smaller groups, which are going to be 5 people large. They'll be listed with this video, so you'll know who to work with for this coming week. You shouldn't have met yet, so don't worry about it. But as you move forward, you'll see that that's the group that you're doing your end of the semester project with. Um, but due this Sunday is an emotional intelligence paper. If you haven't watched the video from week 1 yet, I would definitely say to watch that. I'm definitely going to review a little bit of emotional intelligence today, so don't be too nervous going in. There's also the Toni Morrison reading, and that's going to be really important for you to read that article in order to inform your paper that's due Sunday. The emotional intelligence prompt and rubric is right here. So definitely recommend looking at that. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Feel free to give me an email, and we'll move forward with that. So moving on to this specific week. In week 2, you'll find that you have readings in here. And I think the most important ones that you're going to want to do is, like I said, this Morrison reading. That's going to be really the basics of emotional intelligence, and it's going to be the foundation of how you work through your paper. But in this second reading, which is actually made by various members of Widener's team, which is pretty nice, they talk about the Widener emotional learning scale. Yep, emotional learning scale. And so it actually breaks it down and chunks it out into 5 sections. I'll cover those 5 sections today in this video, but as you're going through your paper, it probably makes sense to keep that up in the background so you can go back, look at how they defined those things, because you're going to want to look at yourself in those ways. If you go back a step to where we found the readings link, you'll see this video. There's 3 videos there. 2 of them are only 10 minutes long. The other one's a half hour long. That's from Dr. Barol, who is the dean, I think now, of Human Services Professions, but she has a lot of work in group learning and establishing healthy collaborative groups. So I would definitely recommend looking at those. What I'm going to expect from you this week is you're going to have a discussion. It's just a single discussion post this week. That post is going to be due by Wednesday. Is it Wednesday or Thursday? Yours is due Thursday, sorry. And then your response is due by Sunday, so a week from today. You're also going to have that emotional intelligence paper, which is due Sunday. It's 3 to 4 pages. If you go into this prompt, it'll give you much more detail about what's going to be expected from that. But you're also going to work in your dyad. There's a specific exercise this week, something that you guys kind of have to practice with each other. And then also the small groups, which I'm posting today, you guys will probably get together and start collaborating in that venue as well. So a lot to go forward with this week. I did want to cover a little bit of the material as we were going through. So I'm going to do that. And then at the end, we'll talk more about the emotional intelligence paper after we've covered some of that content. So the first thing I wanted to do is cover some of the material from last week. And then I wanted to use some videos to reinforce it. So we covered the different stages of groups in the readings, as well as in your conversations with each other. And my video last week covered a little bit of it as well. But I wanted to delve a little bit deeper into each of these stages so you knew how to recognize them, and also encourage or challenge you to start thinking about other groups and how you might be able to use this lens to look at them as far as where they're at as being a collaborative process. So the first stage is going to be pseudo community. And so pseudo community is when everybody gets on the same place and you're sizing each other up. Everybody feels, there's usually a lot of anxiety. Everybody feels like they're apprehensive. Usually people look towards a leader if there is a leader. So if you think of like that first day at class where you don't know anybody, which you're kind of in that situation now, you might try and find the need for some structure to feel comfortable. There's a large amount of lack of comfort at that stage. So the pseudo community, everyone's sizing each other up, trying to figure out, where do I stand with these people? Is it going to be safe? Can I be myself? Will I be accepted? Those are all questions that you'll see a lot in pseudo community. As you start moving through pseudo community, you'll start seeing some behaviors that come out as confrontational or conflicting, and that is when you start getting into the chaos or the struggle stage. So the struggle stage is, I'm going to apprehensively say, good. You want to get through the chaos phase. You want to get to a place where everyone confronts their misconceptions about the group. Because when you start working in a group, you're automatically making assumptions, and it's not through a character fault, it's a defense mechanism, right? You have to group these people into safe and not safe categories. And so you might see somebody who doesn't align with your view politically, doesn't align with your background or ethnicity, who has a large amount of difference, and you might find that divide and find yourself making characterizations. So as you go through those apprehensions, your mind will automatically group their comments, that person's demeanor, and confirm the bias you walked in the room with. Every one of us has biases, right? We walk into a room with certain histories and learning, growth, and the influence your families have given you and the influence your friends have given you. And we all were created with people with a very specific mindset, and our brains categorize things naturally. So a lot of the social work program, in my opinion, is about knowing the processes in your mind that contribute to divisive, non-collaboratory functioning. So awareness is always the first step. And so what you'll see is people's biases start playing out in passive aggressiveness or direct confrontation or disengagement. And so all of these behaviors will come out in a way that's really, really not productive. If any of you, I know there's a lot of folks in behavioral health, you'll see things that aren't adaptive and that they do not contribute to somebody's productive interest in the group. So maladaptive behaviors is something we attribute to people all across the board. We have maladaptive behaviors as well. So if you're talking to somebody and you're hearing them say something and it feels to you like an attack, but to that person, it might just feel like a sentiment that has nothing to do with you, that's largely a misconception that people are putting their walls up, they're protecting themselves, and they're having that like maladaptive behavior of I'm going to make this assumption, and since I'm feeling like that person doesn't like me, I'm just going to disengage, right? I'll be quiet, I'll do the bare minimum, and that'll be fine. And I would say personally, I think a lot of groups go through entire projects or entire programs, or even families continue in that stage for a long, long period of time with certain people not feeling comfortable enough or accepted enough to really contribute to the group in a really collaborative way. You might, do pages 3 through 6, but you're not going to tell the other person that they think that you feel like you want to go a different way, right? You don't feel comfortable enough to take a risk with somebody. So unfortunately, a lot of groups kind of stalemate there, and that's unfortunate. And it's where a lot of like mediocre work comes from. But if you've ever been in a group where you feel like you were completely open and accepted and honest, and you were able to create something incredibly inspiring or that you were very, very proud of, you've probably gone beyond chaos. And so to go beyond chaos, you end up going into what's called emptying. And so emptying, I would say emptying is where you really say your honest perceptions. You confront the elephant in the room, which is whatever animosity happened to be there from chaos. That's the stage where you guys kind of accept each other. I say you guys thinking like, because you guys are all in groups, but me too. So in my family, I feel like my family is a pretty close-knit group, but we do certainly, like a pendulum, go through some of these stages. And so when we go into emptying, it's because we've been bottling up all of these negative assumptions about each other, about ourselves, feeling insecure, and never addressing them. But emptying is when you start addressing them and you look at people directly and say, this is what I'm feeling. And everybody starts to think outside of just that. How am I going to be safe? And you might start thinking, like, how are they going to be safe? How are we as a group going to accept the nuances of every person in the group in a way that lets everybody contribute their strengths and acknowledge their faults, right? So whenever I'm in a group, people are going to know that I'm might take a little bit of time to like respond back with my full thought. I tend to think things through really slowly. I'm a slow processor is what I call it. So they might say a question and say, hey, how are we going to do this? And everyone's going to go around. I might not be the first person to say, this is how we should do it. I'm going to be really innovative and be the person to put out a plan. I'll probably think it through, think of all of like the ups and downs, pros and cons. And a few minutes later, as we're talking things out, I'll say, well, how about this? And it'll be something very different than what we're talking about probably. And people know that about me. So once you start working in a group, you'll get to have a feeling what each member brings to the table and accept the people that aren't going to bring the strengths maybe you have, but have other strengths instead. So that's when you start getting into this true community stage where you're collaborative and you're working together. Everyone understands that people don't come in the room with everything or exactly your point of view, and you can understand and move forward with a diverse amount of perspectives. That's going to be the full range of the community building stages. What I wanted to do is bring in some clips of videos so that we can together look at where these groups are and look at the very specific different indicators of those groups as well. So I am going to start with this scene.
Play some ball, y'all. Black inside, black inside, black inside.
Hey, yo, P-Day, how many yards you figure you gonna get this season, bruh?
You know, I ain't want to brag, Big Blue, but I figure on at least 1,000. But I ain't want to brag.
Hey, didn't I tell you all them white boys weren't gonna play for no brother?
Well, who needs them, baby? From now on, the Titans is gonna be powered by soul power, bruh. He said a soul power.
Shut up.
Put your hand down. You smiling?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Why are you smiling?
because I love football. Football's fun?
Fun, sir.
Fun, sir.
It's fun.
Yes.
You sure?
I think.
Now you're thinking. First you smile, then you think. You think football is still fun?
Yes.
Sir.
Yes. No.
No?
Sir. Well, it was fun.
Not anymore, though, is it? Is it?
No, not by now.
No, it's not fun anymore.
No.
Not even a little bit.
No.
Make up your mind.
No.
Think. Since you're thinking now, go on. Think.
No,
Is
no.
it fun?
No, sir.
No.
No, sir.
Absolutely not?
Zero fun, sir.
All right, listen up. I'm Coach Boone. I'm going to tell you all about how much fun you're going to have this season. We leave for camp, Gettysburg College, August 15th, 7:29 a.m. If you report at 7:30, you will not be playing football this season. You will be watching. You will wear a jacket, shirt, and tie. If you don't have one, buy one. Can't afford one, then borrow one from your old man. If you don't have an old man, then find a drunk, trade him for his. Because I can guarantee you there isn't a bum on the street that looks as raggedy and ridiculous as what I'm looking at right now. This is no democracy. It is a dictatorship. I am the law. If you survive camp, you will be on the team. If you survive. Check him in, Coach.
Checking them in. I'm Coach Hines, your offensive line coach. Yell out your name and position starting from the right.
Petey Jones, running back. The running back, y'all. Yeah.
Jared Harris, quarterback.
Red.
That's a nickname.
And who in the name of heaven might you be?
I'm Louis Lastic, offensive lineman. Naval family just moved here from Bayonne. Someone said football, so I come running. What's going on, everybody?
With him calling the shots, ain't none of us gonna see nothing but the bench this year.
You ain't calling the shots, you'll play.
All right, so in that scene, you saw a lot of people kind of grouping together and having a lot of apprehension about where they stand in this group. I'm going to challenge you guys to think about what would happen if you've ever seen this movie. You'll know that eventually, they move mountains and things are amazing. How would you think this group would eventually develop if Denzel Washington's character maintained that level of, as he called, dictatorship, where all the group members weren't really able to be themselves, but instead just had to kind of respond to a prompt, right? Would that be a really collaborative group, or would that be something where people are doing as they're told, but not really playing to their strengths or acknowledging their teammates' strengths? So, I definitely think you should watch the movie if you haven't seen it. It's an amazing movie, but this really just shows that animosity walking in. People might have the ability to have a bravado in a group, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're secure there. And it certainly doesn't mean that they accept everybody else there. So this is a very good indicator of what a pseudo community would look like, because they're all standing, interacting, they all have a feeling about what they bring to that table, but everybody's thinking about themselves. Where do I play? Where do I fit in here? And so that's really the strongest indicator of pseudo community. You're going to look for uncertainty, anxiety, and that it's not, I wouldn't call it selfish because it's a security thing, but it's certainly self-involved. You're really more concerned with how does somebody else's display of confidence or display of assertiveness or display of quietness or shyness, how does that impact me? And so that's really what you're going to want to look for is that sentiment. Everybody typically looks for a leader, but the best groups usually develop because the folks that are all on the same page are working together collaboratively. And so that's how you want to move things through with your small groups, or even with your dyad, or even with a large group here. Okay, so the next one I want to play is this one, and I'm going to have to skip around in it because they have cutscenes in them. But
You speak of control, yet you court chaos.
This is MO, isn't it?
Now, what are we, a team? No. We're a chemical mixture that makes chaos. We're a time bomb.
You need to step away.
Why shouldn't the guy let off a little steam?
You know damn well why. Back off.
Oh, I'm starting to want you to make me.
Yeah. Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off. What are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
I know guys with none of that worth 10 of you. I've seen the footage. The only thing you really fight for is yourself. You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play, to lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you.
I think I would just cut the wire.
Always a way out. You know, you may not be a threat, but you better stop pretending to be a hero.
A hero? Like you? You're a laboratory experiment, Rogers. Everything special about you came out of a bottle.
Put on the suit. Let's go a few rounds.
You people are so petty and tiny.
Yeah, this is a team.
Agent Romanoff, would you escort Dr. Banner back to his...
Where? You rented my room.
The cell was just
in case you needed to kill me, but you can't.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there because then they get into a very much more elaborate dialogue. But this is exactly the type of team that we see a lot in media. Everyone's bringing certain elements to the team. If you guys haven't seen The Avengers, each of those folks have something that is super, right? So either they're super intelligent and we're able to make an Iron Man suit, or like Bruce Banner is able to become the Hulk. Everyone brings certain strengths to that group, but in this scene, they're all trying to figure out where they all fit, who is the leader at this point. They're actually challenging the coordinated leader. So everyone starts having personal attacks. You're not legitimate because of X, Y, or Z. They cut each other down in a way to kind of make themselves feel like they have a stronger foundation than anybody else. So each of these team members have brought together something and contribute to the team, and yet everybody is calling out each other to see what good are you really. So this is certainly chaos or conflict. It's certainly the part where everybody's trying to establish who they are, their individuality. This is what I am, and then you see the disengagement of certain members, as well as the acting out and the conflict and aggression, like direct aggression of confrontation of each other. So you can see chaos play out in many, many movies. Actually, the original movie that brought me to want to put clips in this video was because we were watching Bridesmaids, and my partner and I went through every stage in Bridesmaids. And originally I was going to try and find a clip from Bridesmaids to put into this, but none of them were appropriate. They all had either just disgusting aspects or a lot of expletives, so I couldn't use them. But a lot of different stories and movies and books have this play out, and they might not show pseudo community as well, but chaos is always the one that they show. So this is chaos. And then I'm going to play my favorite one, and this is going to show emptying or resolution and show that pivotal point where people come together as a team and realize that there's a greater mission at play.
Chester Copperpot! Don't you guys see? Don't you realize? He was a pro! He never made it this far. Look how far we've come. We got a chance.
Chance at what, Mikey? Getting killed? Look, if we keep going, someone's really gonna get hurt. Maybe dead. Besides, we gotta get to the police.
Maybe Chunk already got to the police.
Maybe Chunk is dead.
Don't say that! Never say that! Goonies never say die!
I'm not a Goonie. I wanna go home.
I forgot. But still! Don't you realize? The next time you see Sky, it'll be over another town. The next time you take a test, it'll be in some other school. Our parents, they want the best of stuff for us. But right now they gotta do what's right for them. Cause it's their time. Their time. Up there. Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here. That's all over the second we ride up Troy's bucket.
Okay, so if you haven't seen The Goonies, go see it immediately. It's one of my favorite movies. But that conversation is where they realize as a group that they have a single mission and that they can all contribute to meeting that mission. And so they all have the ability to leave. They all have the ability to escape from this. This is a somewhat dangerous endeavor for them. But they choose to stay for the group mission. And then after that point, this is the pivotal point in that movie, they are able to collaborate and problem solve and accept that, you know, not every member is going to be the most athletic or the most intelligent or the most witty or quick speaking, but they're able to kind of work together and go forward and be very collaborative. So that's going to be what you look for when you're looking for emptying a resolution. You're going to find that the internal dialogue of the members is no longer about themselves, but is now about the group. This is our mission. This is what we can lean on this member for. This is what we can lean on this member for. Together, I'm going to respect everybody's position. We're going to have the ability to have a dialogue. The key indicator of when a group goes through the emptying process and becomes a community is if you guys can have a disagreement and still move through it. But I do want to put the caveat out there in that we're working with people from a great array of backgrounds and a lot of diversity, and so a disagreement about how to go forward with the project at hand is different than a disagreement about somebody's fundamental human characteristics. So sometimes you might see people's personal politics come into play, and it's going to be very personal for some people. And I just want to put that out there. So when you're feeling that raw, you're going to have to let yourself either be vulnerable or understand that the group might move backwards because of disagreements like that. And you might move back towards the pseudo community or the chaos because you no longer feel safe. Your personhood's been attacked. But if you can have a disagreement about what's going to be best for any given mission, you're going to be in a place where it's more community based. Everyone can be honest and know that they're not going to get penalized or humiliated or made fun of or ganged up on if they disagree with the group, and everybody's viewpoints are heard. So that's going to be the key goal for any time of group development, is to get to that place where everybody feels seen, heard, and known, and able to be a voice of contrary opinion and still be validated. All right, so that's the whole groups. I am going to cover a little bit of emotional intelligence just because you guys are going to have that paper that's due Sunday, and I want you to have a firm grasp of what emotional intelligence is and the different categories you guys are going to review in your paper. So for emotional intelligence, I'm going to pull up the emotional intelligence paper just so that you have that to look at. All right. So this isn't what I want to show you. Emotional intelligence, I always like to divide it into explain it in 4 ways, right? So there it is. Emotional intelligence is your ability to be aware of your own emotions and also aware of how you're displaying them. So aware of your emotions and the ability to control the way your emotions displayed on you. Then the other 2 components of emotional intelligence is understanding how other people might feel and how that feeling might impact their ability to control them. So you're going to want to really understand everybody on at the table. So a really astutely emotionally intelligent person will know when they are feeling upset and be able to control the way that that's displayed on them. So if I had a very keen emotional intelligence and knew I was extremely angry, I would be able to display myself in a way that might not be as confrontational, because I would understand that that person would then get defensive and they would get confrontational and things escalate. And we know that's typically not how that plays out, because nobody is perfect and nobody is has a perfect EI or emotional intelligence. They have maybe a lot of awareness about themselves, but not the ability to control how it's displayed to others. So you might know that this is sadness, but you might not be able to filter that sadness to not impact the person you're working with, if that makes sense. So what you're going to want to do is think about, how much do I know when I'm feeling anger is going to be the easiest one to detect, to use as a model. So if you know when you're feeling angry, and you're able to control it when you're working with the person you're angry with, then you have those 2 levels mastered. However, if you're, let's say, insecure, or you feel threatened, or you're scared, and it's displayed as anger, and you say, no, I'm angry, and then you delve deep and you're like, oh, maybe that was more fear. So if you see yourself getting into arguments with people you have relationships with, and then later coming back and saying, hey, I realized I reacted really hostily, but I was actually just very afraid that my position here was going to be in jeopardy, or something to that effect. That might be a person who needs to work on the area of self-awareness, or the ability to control how it's displayed on them. Now, I'm sure we've all met people who might have a lot of awareness about the other folks that they're working with, but none about themselves. Or conversely, they know themselves in and out, but they have no idea how other people are interpreting what they're doing, or that other people have feelings at all. So we used to tease my dad a lot, because he felt like everybody should have his opinion, even if you hated that thing. So if you, let's say, really hated shrimp, like I do, and he's like, no, this is the best shrimp, you'll love this shrimp. Like, no, I won't. I don't like shrimp. But he could never put his mind outside to see that from that other perspective, and he just assumed that everyone had the same feelings and opinions as he did. And if they didn't yet, it's just because they didn't like fully try it or know everything about that topic. So that's somebody who doesn't have good awareness of others and has a very hard time empathizing and trying to generalize what their feelings is going to do to how they interact with others or how they display themselves. So those are the 4 aspects of emotional intelligence that I want you to think about as we go through these 5 different topics. These 5 topics are going to be different sections in your paper. So here you'll see what I'm going to do is I'm going to look through your paper, and the best bet is to put a heading in for each of these. And so you'll have a heading where you're talking about this specific topic and how you are with your emotional awareness and awareness of others for that specific area. Okay, so the first area, being awareness of emotions, is going to be just about you being aware of your emotions, understanding what triggers you have, and if there are triggers that are going to be something that influences or impacts your ability to communicate at that time. The next one's going to be tolerance, and so that's kind of the ability to work with a diverse amount of opinions and a diverse amount of types of people, work with people from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different sexual orientations or gender identity, and know that those opinions might be different from yours, those experiences might be different from yours, but be able to empathize, understand, and work with that difference. Aspect to cover in your paper is relationship skills, and I would definitely suggest looking into and thinking about your past relationships, current relationships with not only significant others but also family members, close friends, people that you have a very close and collaborative relationship with, where you have to do things together, like help problem solve or go on vacations or very stressful things like that, or plan events, and think about how those relationships sometimes hit barriers. Are those barriers because maybe the people you're working with have a hard time understanding your display of emotions? Is it because you feel like sometimes you react in anger and then later find that what you actually feel is insecure? Is it because you're fine with displaying your emotions and having a good awareness of how you're feeling, but you don't understand where anybody else is coming from, and so it's hard to put yourself in that perspective? So I would definitely take some time to think about where your skill set is in that regard, as far as what are your barriers. Is there something that you're having a disconnect? If you feel like, you guys bang your head against a wall in a fight, like really step back and think about where the miscommunication lies. Is there anything that you can do to better understand that person's perspective? And is that more of a manual labor type of task, or does it come naturally to you? And again, all of these are starting points. So you're going to really want to take a very honest look at yourself and know that nobody is perfect in any of these, right? Nobody has a perfect IQ and nobody has a perfect emotional intelligence. Like, nobody is without an area of weakness or without an area that can work on. So that being said, look at your relationships and see where do you find you could work on, where are your areas of need, and how does it relate to your emotional intelligence. Additionally, you're going to have a self-management, which is more about, are you able to really manage your emotions in a healthy way? Are you able to, when you're feeling very, very angry, be able to filter that in a way that's still productive? Or is there a point in which you are no longer productive? I think for many people there are. If you're being actually accosted or attacked, no one's going to expect you to be the most reasonable human in the room, and that's fine. So really just take an honest look at yourself and figure out, where's my comfort zone with that? Is there a place where I need to kind of pull from, or are there areas in which I'm particularly sensitive and not able to manage my emotions? Or are there times in which I know a certain trigger can be avoided, and that trigger is just not something that's going to keep me manageable? And so you're going to be really, introspective. And a lot of social work practice is a lot of the things that you guys do throughout the entire program is going to feel like this. A partner's actually going through the same program, and he said to me, is everything going to be this like deep and like internal? And I was like, yeah. Even as you start going to other topics, you're still going to have to look at transference and how your biases play out. So this is a good jumping off point. It's really introspective. It's very much about yourself, but it's a good jumping off board for diving in the pool of social work. So the last area is going to be flexibility. And it's going to be, you might be completely aware of other people in your team and what they need and how their emotions are being displayed and what emotions they might have, but are you able to be flexible to their needs, or do you feel yourself kind of combating other people's needs for your own? So certainly I'm a very avid believer that a virtue is the center of two extremes. So in the amount of flexibility, right? So there's two extremes there. There's the completely flexible and passive folks who don't get their own needs met, and there are the completely stubborn and inflexible folks who only get their needs met and refuse to make any compromises for others. So just think about where you fall on that spectrum. Again, nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to be dead center. You find yourself sometimes giving in a little bit too easily and then having yourself self-sacrifice, because the thing about self-sacrifice is we have a culture that tends to appreciate martyrdom a little bit, or self-sacrifice. And then we have a whole lot of folks who self-sacrifice to the point in which they aren't getting their needs met and resent the folks that they're around. And so that's not healthy. So where do you fit? Do you find yourself sacrificing more in attempt to be a hero? Or do you find yourself really looking out for yourself, which is, again, it's a starting off point. That's who you are, but it doesn't stop you from being really productive and establishing relationships with people that is very healthy. So that's basically the 5 different areas you're going to want to cover in your paper. You have to cite 2 sources. One of them has to be Toni Morrison's article, which is again in the readings. So if you have any questions as you go through that, feel free to reach out to me. The email is probably your best way. And then I can't wait to read your process notes. Again, your small groups are going to be attached to the announcement that this video is in. If you have any questions about that as well, feel free to give me an email or give my office a call. And I think that should be it. You'll find there's a dyad exercise. Your discussion board post is specific, and there's also a small group aspect. So feel free to give those a peruse, and if you want to touch base about it, let me know. All right. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday, or if you're seeing this beyond Sunday, have a great rest of your week.